Hey everyone, I'm Charting Man Dan with the Chart Guys. I've traded every cannabis vote this country has ever had over the last 14 years, and we've got another one coming up in just 12 trading days. Let's see where the sector stands heading into the Florida vote. All right, so if you've been following along, you know that my motto has been Florida focus only for months. All I care about is TCNNF because it is clearly the strongest name in the sector. It is clearly the leader in Florida. Florida is clearly the center of attention in the short term. And so I'm sticking with it. And so far the trade has worked out. And now it's just a question of how much profit am I going to take into the vote? And the key, people saying that they think that the move is priced in it just can't be. That's not how priced in works. And I try and explain this as much as I can. There we have a video called What Does Priced In Mean? You cannot price something in if it is an unknown. Meaning, yes, if the Florida vote was 85% plus chance of passing, if we had polling data that told us this is going to pass, just like Washington and Colorado, back when I was trading that legalization vote, we were extremely confident that they were going to pass that night. We knew that night they are very likely to pass. The majority of the initial run-up happened into the vote. It didn't do much after the vote, and then it exploded on the first day of sales with a lot of headlines and attention and news stories about the lines and all that, lines around the block. This is extremely different. You cannot price something in that is a 50-50, 60% at best that it's going to happen or not. There is money out there that is saying, I want in, but I'm not willing to take on the risk of whether this vote passes or not. Because if this vote does not pass, these stocks are going to dump. They're going to dump very hard. They're not liquid, and everybody's going to be rushing to the exit at once. So there are people that are going to be waiting and saying, okay, if it passes, then I'm going to look to buy because then I know for a certainty that their revenue and their target markets are going to go up hundreds of %. Whereas the day before the vote, that is nowhere near a certainty. So just be aware that because the polling data is showing us information that has us unable to give a high probability of whether this is going to pass or fail, that we cannot have it priced in. All right. MSOS. I've been watching this 724 to 726 level for a long time. Why? Because we topped out back here. I've been watching this since August. We topped out at 726, 726, 726, 721, 724. Got above it, couldn't close above it, trying, and we just keep failing. This is the zone that we must get over. Trulieve is not going to run much more into this vote 12 trading days away unless MSOS gets over this level and turns it into support. There's a number of the major holdings in MSOS that tell us volatility is coming. And we can see this weekly chart. We've been doing absolutely nothing but sideways for 6 weeks. If you look back and say, when's the last time MSOS had a 6-week period with this wide of a range? Just visually here, I haven't done the math, but it's looking like it hasn't happened since back here. So this is, in over a year, this is the tightest that this ETF has been. What does that tell us? Volatility is coming. One other note, since we've last spoke in one of these videos, the headline narrative has shifted where my dog sprints into the door and sometimes it's closed and she goes head first. Saved her. So sometimes headline shift with Kamala now saying she's going full legalization. That's a big deal. I was actually very surprised we didn't get more reaction in these stocks. People are just so sick of this sector. But that's, whether it happens or not. Again, right now the sector is moving on words. After the election, we look towards actions. But that's definitely a big shift in terms of, what we're looking at. A lot of people are saying Trump probabilities have increased over the last couple of weeks. He's come out with positive statements. He's pro Amendment 3. Anyways, it's up to the vote at this point. Whether Florida passes or not, that's what we're waiting on. The more we run up pre-vote, the more likely I'm going to take some off. I've been all in Trulieve for a while now. I sold AYRWF, which we'll look at in just a moment. When we had the negative CEO headline, sold at 202, put all that into Trulieve at 1140s. Whether I regret that or not, we'll see. It's trying to wake up. But anyways, Now a technical analysis. So MSOS, it's all about that zone. 737 is the upper end of that zone. Bulls really want to hold 679. If that were to break, that would be a bit of a red flag for me. TCNNF, it's beautiful. It's been beautiful for a while. Weekly bull flag confirmed. Highest prices in 5 months, just about. Next major resistance level is going to be 13 psychological and then 1350. New clear support, 1136. That is a very important level for me. If we lose 1136, then that's a red flag. Relative strength. TCNNF divided by MSOS continues its all-time high run. Today is the strongest it's ever been compared to MSOS. This was one of the reasons for focusing solely on Truly, because ever since January to start the year, it was just the go signal. As soon as we got info that the vote was going to be on the ballot, it's been nothing but relative strength. This is how charts give us information on where to focus, and it's gone very well. Check in on the Cannabis account. So, again, this is an account that has been pretty much cannabis only, 98% cannabis long over the last 7 years. It came from an IRS tax return that I did not think we deserved as a company, and just have been playing with it since then. They haven't asked for it back. So this was the first half here is when I was focused on MSOS. That was the vast majority of my position. This was the spike up on April 30th when we had the Schedule 3 spike. Again, I made a mistake. Look how much I gave back. I gave back a ton of that move up. It was, that day was top 5 biggest gain days that I've ever had in my career, and made a mistake by leaving a lot on the table there. From that point, I started to shift my focus. I had a second chance to exit. This was my second chance to exit here. I took off a lot of the position and went back towards cash, patiently waited for the summer bleed that we were looking for, because that's so common in this sector. And then towards the end of the summer, focus went to Trulieve for all the reasons we've talked about. And you can see how it's gone since then very well, back to new all-time highs after battling that level for the last couple of weeks, and gains 65% on the year. MSOS is up maybe 2% on the year. Active trading in this sector is the only way to profit historically, ever. Hopefully that changes one day, but hasn't yet. AYRWF. So we know volatility is coming here as well. We've been trading sideways for months. And again, the reason I sold was negative headline, and I hated the liquidity. Again, I was only in a 10,000 share position, which for me was a smaller position size. And still there were mornings where if I were to sell my position, I'd be half of the entire morning's volume. And I just can't have that. So here's where the headline was, and sold right there at that open when that negative headline came out. And we are still just below that level. So if these bulls are going to prove anything on AYRWF, number one, the volume has to pick up. A high volume day here is like $700,000 traded. Again, in the grand scheme of things, that is absolutely nothing in markets. Anything under 222 is just a weekly lower high. If we do not break that level, we're just going to keep trading sideways for a while. So it's all about 222. And we had a nice uptick in volume on Thursday, but you got to see that day after day after day for things to be changing here. And again, that very high volume day was less than $1 million traded. That was $600,000 traded, which again is absolutely nothing. GTBIF, you can't get much tighter than this. Volatility is coming. Look at the extremes of the range. I care about 1010 support, and I care about 1087 resistance. And we're right smack dab in the middle of the range. It's doing absolutely nothing. Nobody cares about it over the last few weeks. How can I say nobody cares? Because the price is doing nothing and there's no volume. There's $1 million traded a bunch of these days. Curaleaf, same sideways range, but closer to breaking bull. Got to get over 321. Again, just nothing going on in these names. Can't be more clear that Florida's been the place to be. And this is, I'm 80%, 85% technicals with my trading, but this was a fundamental decision. Technicals helped. Yes, I can see on the chart relative strength of Trueleaf comparative to MSOS. That's a confirmation. But again, just logic, fundamental logic. If we got a major dangling carrot for only these specific companies and not anybody else, you focus on those specific companies. And so that's the small amount of fundamentals that I use in my trading to help profit. HITI. So I know Guap on Twitter and with the Dales report is a big fan of this name. Why am I covering it? Doesn't have enough volume for me. Good volume today. That's solid. All right, we're getting there, right? 4 million plus traded today. Dollars. So that's great. Generally, the volume's not enough. The average volume, it's over 1 million, but it's, 1.3 million or whatever. But look at the relative strength. We are testing the highest levels. We got to 282, 285. We rejected, but we're still up there. 285 is the highest level in years. And so again, HITI divided by MSOS tells us all-time high relative strength. You need to be focusing on the stronger names and not focusing on the weaker names. Psychologically, what newer traders will do, say, this name is weak, this name is cheap. That word cheap means absolutely nothing to markets and trading because value is all relative. But people's mindset is this is cheap. It hasn't. That's why so many people are still looking at CGC and TLRY and just wasting time when TCNNF has been screaming this is the one to be looking at. But HITI, all-time high relative strength, definitely an honorable mention. If we cannot break 285, bulls want to see consolidation remain healthy. Bulls want to see hourly oversold, mark a daily high or low. If we do start daily consolidation, and of course need to get over 285, then we looked at 3 psychological, 287. Let's just call it 287 because that's right there as well. Key resistance test. Second strongest name I see in the sector. CGC, just a slow bleed. Yes, it has bounced a bit the last few days. Absolutely. But you look at the bigger picture, we could say anything under 531 is just a lower high. We've been saying the same thing for so many months, just weekly lower high, lower high, lower high, lower high. If we just keep setting lower highs and lower lows, absolutely nothing is going to change. We need volume to pick up. We need to confirm a daily uptrend. We need to see a weekly breakout. We need sizable volume, but it's just not there. Maybe that'll change. But again, I removed CGC from my screen. I used to have it on the screen and keep an eye. Haven't looked at it in weeks. It's just, your mental bandwidth is opportunity cost. There's uranium is breaking out, metals are breaking out. There's so much opportunity in markets that I can't be looking at names doing nothing that are stuck in the mud. TLRY, I've been watching this one for a long time, this pattern. We broke the base of support in the 160s on earnings. We're still trading around this range. But again, we've been setting weekly lower highs on this name for 6 months. Nothing changes as long as that's the case. We can see a 20% move from here and still just set a weekly lower high. We've got to see a change on the chart to tell us things are shifting. If it doesn't, we should expect the same things to keep happening. SNDL, I still like this tightening range. We did double bottom down at 190. So some aggressive bulls, got to play off that support. Resistance is 212 and 224. Expecting volatility here into the election. It's lining up. It's just been forming and forming, but it's coming to a head here right into the election. What in the world is going on with drug? So I look at this and say, number one, I know a ton of people are going to bag hold this name and lose a ton of money trading it because they don't know what they're doing and they like big flashing numbers that are green, and so they jump in. This just looks to me like a group is running it. Its float is something like 3 million shares. And so it looks to me like a large group ran it, and then a headline came out after the huge run, and it didn't really do anything on the headline. And then today it gap up and runs on private placement news. Maybe the market said, we know a private placement's coming, but it wasn't that bad. I think the private placement was in the 20s for where they priced it. It just keeps doing these halts and these gaps, and it's just, I don't, I've traded things like this before, but, I looked at this on my Friday, and do I want this? Like, in the zone stress? Like, nah, I don't even want to trade that right now. I mean, uranium was given all the volatility we needed, but and liquidity. I mean, those names are trading tens, hundreds of millions of dollars. And this one, gaps on the 5-minute, I really dislike. But it's something to behold, that's for sure. To go from $1 and then hit 70 something a few days later, it's like the meme stock days, like Wall Street bets. But it does look like a top is hit, and we had everybody trying to race for the exit at the end of the day, and it was halting on the way down. Looks like it's back open after hours, and it's not much of a race. Anyways, I'm just showing this because people are asking what's going on. Unless you're a professional, don't trade this name. Even me, the professional, decided not to trade this name just because, again, these halts make things extra difficult. But look what it did to the ETF PSIL. Just this ETF is doing absolutely nothing forever, and then it just, because it was one of its holdings, exploded. Now, it didn't do anything today. I'm not sure if they sold the holdings or what, but again, I don't care at all about any of this. I'm just showing you because I know a lot of you get interested in this stuff. MNMD has had a nice bounce over the last 6 days. We have to confirm a daily uptrend. There's still a lot of work to do, but at least, erasing 2 months of slow bleed downside. And, maybe this will be an inverse head and shoulders on the weekly, trying to shape up, just trying to put in a bottom in these names. CMPS still not really doing anything. It's trying, but it's, nothing going on here. I don't care about it. ATA, excuse me, I'm drinking a beer. ATAI, trying to bounce. Again, erasing a month of downside, but just so much work to do in these names. And again, when I've got blue sky breakouts in uranium stocks, I got gold blue sky breakout. I've got metal miners hitting highest levels in years. I've got NVDA testing all-time highs, Netflix all-time highs. There's so much opportunity in the market that, again, I just can't be looking at things that are in long-term downtrends. And yes, some people like to find those names in long-term downtrends and, position longer term and things like that. That's fine, different style. But there's just too much opportunity cost for me to be even spending time looking at these charts when there are so many other bullish things out there. But again, I don't want to update and be like, I sold all my TCNNF or things like that. Even when I sold AYRWF, I hesitate to post it because it's so illiquid that it will impact things. If I tell the world I sold Amazon, doesn't mean a thing. But I can impact AYRWF, and that's the last thing I want to do. So I want to be transparent and let you know what I'm doing, but also don't want to, influence things too much. Doug Cass. And so I will keep you posted. I'll probably take some profit before the vote. Definitely. It's gone really well. The play was the run up into the vote, at least for me. And I will be taking profit before the vote. There, I just decided it. All right. Hope you have a great weekend. Do good things, and we'll see you soon.